Welcome, everybody, to the PCA UCR Tech Session. Tonight, we've got the Mantis guys walking us through some a variety of things that we'll be talking about. You're currently on mute, and I've got you set to not be able to unmute yourselves for now. Later on, we'll allow you to unmute yourselves and jump in with questions. But for now, if you've got questions, post them in the text chat, please. And that way we can keep everything moving along and hit your questions as we go. But please do ask questions along the way. And like I said, we'll do an open verbal questions later on in the meeting. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Roger.
Well, hi and welcome. It's the second of the renewed Mantis tech sessions, which is really great. Fortunately, there was a lot of discussion yesterday about the restrictions and so on, and we're able to go ahead. So it's super, and I welcome you all. I'm glad you're all attending, and I think it'll be an interesting session. Stefan's just going to cover off some UCR and topics like that, and then we'll roll straight into John and Dirk and get going.
Wonderful. Thank you, Roger. For those of you who don't know, my name is Stefan Walther. I'm the president of your Porsche Club of America Upper Canada region, one of the largest in all of PCA of all their 146 regions, and certainly one of the most active. I'm excited to welcome you to this second tech session held by John Dunsky and Dirk Dunschide from Mantis Autosport. It was the last session was our largest ever for a virtual event. It was about 200 people, and I'm looking at the participants right now for this one, and we're heading up there, so that's great. Just want to cover off some club news. As everyone knows, we have a little bit of a stay-at-home emergency lockdown situation in Southern Ontario. And many of you received the e-blast this morning, so you'll know that, for example, our autocross this weekend is canceled, as well our driver education for May 1st and 2nd as well. That's off the schedule for now, but we hope to get back to normal. We're anticipating having a great driving season, and Mantis is going to help us get all our cars up to snuff, and especially for when we want to hit the track again. So we do have some other virtual events, so please take advantage of some of these virtual events. On next Tuesday is with Porsche Centre North Toronto. On April 24th, we have Porsche Centre Markham grand opening virtual tour and social, and that should be a lot of fun. That's on a Saturday morning, so pour yourself a coffee. We'll be in lockdown, so before you head out for your jog, just take a tour of the Porsche Centre Markham dealership. Should be a lot of fun. May 11th, we're with C17 Media, and that's a little bit of a tech social. They do paint protection film, windshield protection film, car graphics. So they're going to have some nice Porsches to show us and do a demo on those cars. So it should be interesting there. And just to let you know, the dealerships are, just like Mantis, considered an essential service. We need transportation, and the dealerships are open by appointment only, just so you know that. We do have a possibility of a couple other virtual events coming up. I was talking to Porsche Canada today. They would like to do something extra special for our club, so stay tuned for information on that. Our May driving tours, we're pushing back the opening on those. They were supposed to open for registration next weekend, April 18th, and we're going to push that back to the first weekend of May, because we want to know what kind of regulations we're going to be facing before we, register everyone and collect some payments for the little perks that are involved with that. So stay tuned to that. They currently open on May the 2nd, I believe, but they may be pushed back a little bit more depending on what our situation looks like. But we are anticipating a bit of a return to normal. You probably also saw in the e-blast, I see we have with us this evening Kai Wankum. He's a Concours co-chair, and we are trying to do a show and shine on May the 22nd at Legendary Motor Car Company. So it will probably be a stripped down event a little bit with limited people who can actually be there in person, but we're hoping to have a virtual component as well for everyone to tune in on. So stay tuned for more information on that. And even with our driving tours, we're trying to plan this year to have a plan B where we just get in our cars and drive, and there's no social gathering per se. So we're going to try to accommodate everyone. I want to thank John Dunsky and Dirk for hosting another session with us. I always like to point out that, you know, whether it's Mark, the CEO of Porsche Canada, whether it's Chris Pfaff, John Dunsky, Dirk, not only are they supporters of our club with a business, but they're also club members, and we know them because we've seen them out at some of our events and at the track. So that's fantastic. It's a really great community that we have. And I also want to thank Roger Stopford, who introduced me here. He's our Tech Sessions chair, and he's the one organizing these special virtual tech sessions for us all to enjoy, especially important as we're now in another lockdown. He's also a board director, and he's a lead on the special interest group. So thank you to Roger for all his work. And so, yeah, I encourage all our club members here to support John and Dirk on their new adventure with Mantis Autosport. And without further ado, I'll pass it off to them.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Dirk and I are super excited to have you again, and hopefully everyone's safe at home. It's really incredible our first responders are doing, and I'm in the healthcare in my other life, and it's definitely very difficult times, and hopefully we can take this short pause and get back to the track soon enough. And in the interim, we can do fun things like this and get you excited about track activity. So tonight, the format that we wanted to cover off was catch up on some of the projects we talked about in our February session, and then also talk about some of the products that we offer for do-it-yourself work. We recognize that a lot of people, especially in these times of idle hands at home, are looking for projects to do themselves, and we're more than happy to be a part of that, whether it's from a machining standpoint, supply only, supply and help. We're going to go over one of the projects here tonight that the client ended up doing a lot of the work themselves, and then we just do the finishing and filling on it and certification, much like some of the stuff we're going to talk about with track vehicles, how you can do a lot of the verification and work at home, and then we can do the post or pre-track inspections for you, which are mandatory with PCA, and an incredibly good idea. And I can tell an anecdotal fun story about that later, about brakes and doing it yourself. So we're going to start off with the roof behind us. This is a car that Dirk was instrumental in building and developing, and especially on the engine side. And I will pass it over to Dirk to go over this car. And
yes.
Sorry.
Thanks, John. Yes, thank you for joining us tonight again. We're excited to see everybody out, and excited to share what we've been up with too, and give you a little bit of insight of what's going on. So this is actually one of the, might even call it the first sort of official Mantis project that came on board here when we took over. This grew quickly. It was, as most Porsche owners can attest to, working on the car, modifying it, doing things is a very slippery slope. And something that turns into an easy update or upgrade quickly can snowball. So this started as a simple engine transplant. He did have a problem with a D-chunk failure on the cylinder, and was on the hunt for a replacement engine. We started talking. We talked about several possibilities. Originally, this was going to be just a used engine swap. And then when I found out what the client was after, we started talking, and it quickly became, can we do this as well? Sure we can, sure we can. And it turned into basically creating this roof packaged car. This is the Violetta Blue from Porsche. I think there were only 17 or 18 Boxsters in the world in this color. So it had already started its life as a very unique car. And there was a sentimental value to the client as well for this vehicle. So there was definitely interest in keeping this project alive and making it something really, really special. As the project went on and grew legs, we started to talk about the different roof aspects that it had. And the client mentioned, well, I have some side skirts and I have a front bumper. Can you help us put those on? Which turned into quickly just about every possible component that Roof sold or still had in stock for this car, including the client tracked down the mirrors, a bunch of the different parts and pieces that were really hard to find, and put together this amazing package. So basically, this is a 3800S. Roof always takes the engine displacement, uses that as their model moniker. So if it's a 3.8 liter, it becomes a 3800. And so we chose to go with a 996 3.4 that started its life as a 3.4, and we've bumped it up to a 3.8 liter. So yeah, the end result is going to be an amazing boxer with lots of power, more than enough power. But obviously the styling on this as well was instrumental to make the whole package. So the brakes were upgraded to the gyro disc. The calipers were painted in the Porsche purple, the GT3 purple. We had the valve covers powder coated to match. The suspension was switched over to a coilover suspension. Trying to think the interior. Unfortunately, we'll show you a little bit more of the interior once the car is on the ground next time. But it's got full carbon fiber GT3 style seats. A double DIN radio was installed, completely updated. Custom Sway or Alcantara inserts in the seats, Alcantara bits on the dash pod. A whole bunch of wonderful little accents that really brought the inside of the car and highlighted the unique and the great features of the 986. So we'll see more of the build shortly. This engine should be going in this car next week, actually, as the rest of the pieces come together. And it'll have a light and flywheel RSS harmonic damper pulley, and GT3 custom exhaust system. So with Soul catless headers, actually. So all of that will come together, and we'll see what this baby can do on the dyno afterwards. And yeah, hopefully the client's going to be blown away. So
cool. I'm going to walk over with Nico to the chocolate, affectionately called the chocolate. It's a late 70s 911S. Came to us with Weber's, and unfortunately, one of the Weber's drained fuel into itself and caused a bit of a failure. So this was basically a short block rebuild. So everything in the long block top end rebuild with PMO carbs. It's in its sort of what I would love it to stay in format with the velocity stacks, but unfortunately we've got to protect the air going into it. But just incredible beauty when you see this car, the PMOs on it, 40 millimeters. So these are PMOs are recreations, very similar to Weber's, just modernized. And basically they came to us tuned. We gave the manufacturer all the specifications. It's got RS pistons in it. We did some hot cams, and basically some of the other cool things that we did, and we can do this to any vehicle, is the fan housing and the fan itself were Cerakoted. And in this case, it turned out really well, is that the metallurgy of the different pieces reacted to the Cerakote, but it created this really nice two-tone look for it. So this car, it's running. We're just completing the air conditioning system in it. The next stop will be the dyno, hopefully tomorrow. Again, really incredible to take a car that was almost perfect before and even make it better. The color sounds crazy to say, scrumptious. It's a chocolate, really deep chocolate color. And it's one of those colors that probably 15 years ago, we would have said, I don't want that. Enthusiasts now are really gravitating towards these historic and fun colors like the golds and in this case the brown. So other upgrades that we did to this was a high-powered alternator and a high-powered high-torque starter. So the alternator goes in to compensate for the new air conditioning system that's in the vehicle, which we'll talk about on another car as well. So this is just about done. When we looked at this car last in February, I don't think we looked at the car. We actually had the engine in pieces. Engine rebuild of this type or around 50 to 70 hours, depending on the complexity and what we're changing. And really excited to see it on the road. And I know our client, and who's a friend and become a friend and enthusiast, and you know, I know he's super excited to drive it too. So it's great to grow with our clients and as they buy more cars, because why have one when you can have many? And I'm just as bad of a victim of that as well. So Dirk's going to show you a modern car next and a beautiful chalk, and I will head out. So.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, you know, we love working on the older cars, the classics, and breathing new life into them and freshening them up. Simple things like even this car got a Wevo shifter and a wave track limited slip, things like that. Just, you know, there's a lot of ways to take modern technology and update some of the older stuff so that it actually improves it and makes the characteristics a little bit more like modern cars. But yes, obviously there's no shortage of things to be done to the new cars as well. I mean, even something as simple as a lowering. A lot of the Cayman Boxster platforms, there's a few little shortcomings when it comes to track setup, or if you decide to change the stance on the vehicle, mainly lowering. Sometimes they run out of toe adjustment, which is kind of a common scenario, especially with GT4s when you start going into a really aggressive or spirited street alignment. But you have, you know, Tarot rear control arm, rear toe arms that are adjustable, and they also have drop link adjustment so that you can keep the geometry on the toe arm the same so that you eliminate bump steer and things like that. So there's little things that we can do, obviously, to take a car that's already fantastic and just tweak it enough to make it next level and just a total joy to drive in a spirited manner. Of course, legally and everything on the street when you're not on the track. But John will touch a little bit more now on, we were talking about the electric AC systems from Classic Retrofit. They're really an amazing system that you can use to update the car with modern technology again. So it eliminates all of the clunky old compressor, the AC lines running to the back of the car and everything, and turns it into a modern, electric-driven, and actually computer-driven, modulated. All the logic is actually proprietary and it's internal. So the cool part about this system is it doesn't even have a high-pressure switch because it actually uses the resistance in the system from the electric motor to be able to tell if the pressure is too high, and then it just pulls back the pulse width for the motor drive and actually self-regulates the pressure that way. But yeah, John can point out a few of the little components here.
Yeah,
describe the setup.
Yeah, it's super cool. And so again, every AC setup like this, you do need to put in a high-powered alternator. What's really cool is we can diagnose the system. So in this case, in the spirit of do-it-yourself, the client ended up wanting to rough in and do most of the work himself, and then have us do some of the finishing work, like filling it, which we do a fill purge program and recapture for environmental reasons. We do a leak verification. In this case, we checked we double checked wiring just to make sure everything was functioning properly. And again, one of the cool things, as Dirk said, was that it is electric driven and it's computer driven. So Jay, one of our master techs, and I were working on the computer to do a quick diagnosis, which tells us that the compressor is getting power, that the switch is working properly, the relays are working properly. So before we even fire this up, we were able to do a full diagnostics on the computer. We can adjust fan speeds. So again, different climates, different power levels, you can really fine tune the system. And being modern, it's electric, no horsepower draw, which is really key, especially on some of the older Porsches. With emissions, the 80s Porsches, which we can always help you with. And we talked about our Outlaw build, which we're not going to talk about today, but in dyno results, some of those cars are running 120 to 140 horsepower, and air conditioning is a massive draw on it. So this kind of is a boost for horsepower and helps out with modern AC blowing extremely cold and in a really neat package. So Nico, if you can come up and we'll back off, but you'll see that most of the package fits in the smuggler's box. So basically, once we're completed the work, we'll pull the USB cord and it'll live and breathe on its own. We'll cover off the top, and then really the shrouding and carpeting will cover the rest of it. So it's a really nice, clean install.
And the whole evaporator and fan housing is all self-contained, and it just replaces the factory unit.
So other cool upgrades, and from a do-it-yourself standpoint, just because we're here with this car right now. So Nico, if you can come over here. So again, suspension-wise, you know, a lot of the vehicles, the suspensions are original, or we can supply your home build. We can supply the Bilsteins or Coney's, whatever your desired shock is. But there are some really modern twists, and I'm quite looking forward to tracking an air-cooled car with PCA at some point this summer. We've bought a project that we're code naming now and doing some renderings on. And part of that is to go to an MCS system, which we're wearing our MCS shirts. They're a proud, we're very proud to be partnered with them, both from a development standpoint, but also we have many cars already out there. What we talked about in February as well is that, you know, as enthusiasts, everything that we sell and procure for you, either from a do-it-yourself standpoint or to install in your cars, is stuff that we're using already ourselves. So from an adjustment, you know, how to set it up, wear and tear, things like that, we're there. We just completed a beautiful 968. We did a full ground-up suspension kit on it, and basically we were able to hand the client and the team manager the settings for it and basically get it turnkey for them, so that all they're doing is fine tuning and stuff. So those are some of the exciting things. We'll keep looking. So I'm gonna
Hey guys.
I'm gonna spin around this way if the camera follows me.
Hey John. We've got a question there.
Oh, sorry.
Can you hear me? We've got one question. Yeah. Does the big alternator rob any extra power?
I'm going to pass that off to Dirk to answer.
So, I mean, the correct answer would be yes, it is a draw, right? It's going to take more power to turn over the alternator, but I don't think it's going to be anything like, I mean, if you've driven one of these old cars with the AC system on, where you slow down when the AC kicks on and then it speeds up again as soon as the AC, the compressor shuts off and slows back down again, there will be none of that, because you know, you'll have that resistance or that extra resistance in the alternator as it's generating the power it needs, but it's not going to be cycling on and off because it's constant and it's continuous. Even the wiring, everything for the high output alternator is beefed up. So really there shouldn't be that much extra draw, and I'd be really surprised if it even showed up as a you know, a noticeable difference.
And what kind of price range are you talking about for that electric AC?
Call it $8,000.
Yeah, you can format the kit in different ways depending on your application and also the year of the vehicle. But usually it's between, I think, $8,000 to $10,000. That's in yeah.
Great. That's all the questions for now.
We've found we have to do the alternator. So originally we were when we were working with the system, we were trying to find ways to use the factory alternator, and it just doesn't make sense. It makes the most sense to go all the way, and it's a fairly maintenance-free system in the sense that fill it, and really you'll have a long life with it. So your annual cost is very low to keep the system, especially if it's a classic that's in your collection that you would be keeping for a long time and really enjoying as a summer driver. And that's the key. Is sometimes, you know, when I'm picking a car to drive, I'll skip over something because it's like, well, I'm wearing a shirt and tie today, you know, reminiscent of times, but you know, I don't want to drive that because I'm going to be super sweaty. So you're able to take that really cool classic street car and drive it as an everyday driver and have fun. So,
great.
Cool. And the system is also very customizable. Because most of the system is modular. The evaporator and the fan housing is one piece. The compressor is electric and it's one piece. The condenser and fan are one piece, and they kind of you know, they're all separate components, and you can set up that system in the car depending on your needs. So if you have an SC front bumper, there's a certain spot that you can locate it in the front wheel well. If you have a custom body kit or something like that and you don't have the room for it, you can actually put the fan and the evaporator or condenser, in the back. So it's it comes with the hose, and you basically piece the system together. It comes with the directions, and they have suggested locations for everything. But to be honest, it's highly adaptable. So if you needed to change things and adapt it to different orientations, it's totally doable. So I think we're going to go back over here and get back onto the suspension.
So before we move on to the suspension and do-it-yourself parts, I just wanted to show this car. It's a 996 GTB1, so a club specification race car. It's a long-standing friend and client's car. We had the pleasure of doing a bit of a refresh on it, including paint. It has a data system, and really this is a bit of a shameless plug because it's such a great car, but it is for sale, and it's fresh. So that's the fun part about it. And this would be an example of a vehicle, on the higher spectrum of setup, but also something that you could take for DE, have a lot of fun, reliability, and really a lot of options. It's fully stripped with a cage and everything. So this has been a more or less a year-long project, and the end user decided to sell it. And so yeah, we're happy to have it here. And if anyone wants to see it, we'll have to figure out how to show it outside, but we can more than accommodate. So we're going to move over to some of the do-it-yourself / upgrade parts that we can do. These parts apply to all platforms. One of the things we wanted to do today was really show you from 996 to Cayman, new 718 Cayman, older 911s. We really wanted to show that the breadth of our knowledge covers all platforms. We've got an exciting new member of the family that we're going to show off shortly, but really, GT4, whether it's your 2020 GT4, 2016 Cayman GTS, we have solutions and options. So we're going to come over here to the table. Again, MCS is one of the feature products we wanted to talk about. We have many cars with these systems. I run this setup on one of our Endurance 944s. What's really cool about it is, so for the classic 911 that we were looking at, here's a great example of craftsmanship, but also practicality. So this MCS damper basically comes with the spindle, and the spindle is set up 1 inch higher so that you're basically naturally getting the RS lowering setup. So this combined with a Tarot sway bar, basically the coilover springs and everything, we can price out a full kit. And these are kind of the projects that we see a lot of our clients doing at home, and then they'll bring it to us and we'll do a corner balance setup and track prep and track sheet sign off. So again, if you're eager to do some builds at home in your spare time, the kits typically come with all of the accessories, the camber plates, the turn knobs. In the case of the 944 for the rear, it's a torsion delete. So you'll end up with spacers and funny name for it, banana plugs at the bottom. So basically, this would be your air-cooled 911. Then you get into the next step up. This is for a 944, and basically it's a dual adjustable. So 944 Cup SP2. This would be sort of a spec shock to be towards the pointy edge of things. Gives you compression and rebound adjustment. So both at the bottom of the shock, which is typically pointed this way, so you can reach under the car. Typically rebound, I'm a set it and forget it guy on that. I've spent a couple of days just getting the setup right, and then typically compression is what I'll change track based. So really robust system. Again, a lot of the fun things that we can do for you is do spring recommendations, so you're not alone. If you're going to do it yourself at home, we'll be able to say, here's the springs we recommend based on the vehicle, driving style. If you want to do something like this, and it's a hybrid setup for track and street driving, then obviously we would recommend different springs. So really versatile kits, and actually relatively easy to do at home, and we can walk people through the hard stuff. We've got, I would say, 3 cars coming in the near future that clients who wanted to do the projects over the winter themselves, and we're going to do the track inspection and final setup and nut and bolt check. So this is one step up. This will be going on to the Mantis Cayman Pirelli World Challenge car. So one of the things with higher horsepower vehicles is keeping the power down through entry, center, and exit. And having a three-way adjustable is 100% one of the ways to do it, because it gives you slow speed adjustments as well as high speed. So as you're within the apex area, you're able to really fine tune and adjust the suspension to keep that power down, to keep the car planted and your grip angle on the ground. So, and that's one of the things when I tested that car was like, wow, this could really benefit. And it can mean a matter of seconds. You know, I'm a firm believer that suspension is more valuable than horsepower, because you're able to really keep that power on the ground and flying. So really robust kits. We have sort of different levels. So it's far from entry level, but basically single adjustable, dual adjustable, triples. And then we have a GT3 RS that we're a Wyzak edition that we're doing PASM delete and four-way adjustable on, as well as a Dun power kit, which adds 70 horsepower roughly to an already extremely powerful car.
Yeah, I think the 991 platform is slightly lower, but yeah, it's a substantial increase in power, and it's done just through exhaust and intake and tuning. You know, it's all externally bolt-on, no interior mods or anything like that. You know, one of the things that you can obviously do to really improve the ability or the breathing ability of an engine, which is going to relate to horsepower, is allow the engine to pull in extra air and allow it to get rid of extra air. One of the things, there's two systems that we like to promote and use because we feel that the quality is next to none. One of them is Dun, and one of them is Sol. There's a lot of solutions for GT4s, the newer platforms. Now we're getting into, you know, we're seeing more and more vehicles with particle filters thanks to the European emissions standards. So we can do things like, you know, particle filter deletes, over axle pipes, things like that. High flow cats, which will still obviously allow the engine to breathe much better. Most of them are a 200 cell cat versus a 400 cell cat. So, you know, half the restriction, larger diameter sometimes as well. But then obviously the actual engineering with pipe length and things like that, which, you know, help factor into long tube, short tube, race headers, street headers, things like that. Obviously lots of different options. But one of the things that's amazing is through different exhaust designs, you're able to really create an effect on the engine, whether it's extra cylinder scavenging, so allowing all of that that burnt gas to escape the cylinder quicker, and to flow better and to go through and exit. Okay. You know, which all feeds together and to help with the system and the performance of the system. So, okay.
Phone's dying.
One of the things with the Dun Power Kit actually is they've gone so far as to look at how the phases, the intake phases or the compression phases of the engine on a flat six, how it actually affects the pulses in the intake. Because anytime you have an engine, it's basically a large pump. There's always some kind of air pulsation that comes back up through the intake valves. You know, when it goes through its cycles, its compression cycles, they've actually figured out a way to reduce the phases in the intake from 3 to 2, which allows for more efficient cylinder filling, and it actually eliminates some of the vibration and phasing inside the engine. And allowing the engine to perform better. So by simply replacing the intake and the exhaust, upgrading the exhaust system, there are huge horsepower gains on engines that typically we were always under the impression there wasn't much room left to give. Obviously, forced induction, there's always lots of ways to play with that. Naturally aspirated, you know, for the most part, everybody believes, well, there's very little we can do because it's already been maximized. But there are creative ways, and there are companies out there that are actively exploring those ways to get more, to harness more of that power that's out there. It's amazing what can be done now with computer simulation and 3D printing. And, I think with the new technology that's available, it opens a lot of doors for how we can experiment with things, because, back in the days when everything had to be custom milled or made CNC, the R&D costs were crazy. And now if you can 3D print something, it's much easier and quicker to be able to try something, see if it works, then go into production or go into a more robust form. So yeah, there's lots of interesting ways to do those things. One of the cool parts that Soul has, they actually have a valve system. So if you do the GT4 system or any of the modern cars, and if it may not have a PSC system on it, you can actually add a valve system with a little control unit. And the cool part about it is these remotes actually will link to HomeLink. So you can program them to your garage door opener. So there's no need to have a fob, an extra key fob or anything. You can just hit your HomeLink remote and turn on and off your exhaust system. And the cool part is this system is actually completely generic. You can use it on any of the platforms, and yeah, it'll adapt to any of them. So
one of the big challenge, like one of the things that upset me as a perfect vehicle is the new GT4. I have a 2020. And at times you want a little bit more sound. And the way that the programming has been done is that regardless of whether PSC is engaged or not, between 2,000 and 4,000 RPM roughly is the baffles are closed. And combination of that, and as Dirk was talking about, the GPF filter, which in North America, the GPF filters are the filter housing is there, but it's actually not active. There isn't an active filter in it. So it's creating it's basically a resonator, an additional resonator. So if you compare the 2016 GT4 to the 2020, there is a noticeable sound difference on top of the fact that through that specific rev range, you will not get your PSC to work. So this solves that problem, is you're able to go open on full the time. So for track duty, you can keep it open and enjoy it. You can have it on stock function or closed all the time. So lots of functionality with that. And again, everything we're talking about here can be combined with things like DSC controllers. Dirk will get into that a bit more about the GT4 upgrades that we can do. So at a minimum, if you're mildly unhappy about the sound quality out of your 2020, 2021 GT4, this over axle pipe is a really affordable, flow tested way of solving that by removing that giant resonator that really serves no function in North America. I could get into a lot of really neat detail about that resonator and GPF filters and how it affected the oil certifications. So one of the things with C40 and A40, we'll leave that for another time. Our next Mantis tech session will be the unveiling of a number of our projects, the 4-liter Carrera S. Hopefully we'll be unveiling the 4.1 liter GT3, but also one of the things we're going to do is a dyno focused event where we take each stage of Soul product as well as Softronic and show here's what a baseline car is doing, and then through and through all the way up to full race cats. So it gives everyone a real window into the power gains that can be brought out. Worthy of mentioning for the club racers, both MCS and Soul are club racing sponsors. So again, we're working with and using products that are avidly recommended and they're PCA members and involved. As a matter of fact, Spec Caymans run a Soul exhaust as part of their spec program because the factory headers were cracking because of age, but also the heat with those race cars. So really cool products, amazing quality. They stand behind the product. So not only from our standpoint, it's really nice to know that if we put one in, and again, there can be failures. It doesn't happen often, but if they do, they stand behind the product, they replace it, and they work with us and you if you're doing it at home. So other things that we wanted to talk about is on the 944 platforms, we've been doing a lot of ball joint machining. So there's a few different kits out there that you can acquire, but then they require machining the spindles to either use a longer ball joint to change geometry with factory control arms, or certain kits like the Racer's Edge kit. If you're going to a billet aluminum control arm, it requires, again, machining, beveled machining, and then threading. So those are things that we can offer. We have the jigs built, so machining services. And again, it's, if we're not doing the work, we're still more than happy to support you and do the machining services. And then also if you require, bolt check and verification at the end. So, and that applies to Terra, so we will walk over to,
Hey guys, we have a couple questions.
Yep, go ahead. I'll walk and listen.
Where are Soul products made?
They are made in the U.S. I want to say Jersey.
No,
Pennsylvania.
Yes, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Pennsylvania, and MCS is in Atlanta. They're in the Atlanta, Georgia area, so right by the track. So.
Right. And did you say that the valve can be installed on any type of exhaust system?
Well, yeah. So if you have, you can convert any car to PSC basically. So if you have a valve system, because there's lots of other mufflers and systems out there that are valved as well, but a lot of the time the problem is then you have no way to control it or open it if the vehicle wasn't installed from the factory with a PSC system. So the cool part about having that system is the control unit actually allows you to manually operate those valves. So even if you were to retrofit a 987 GT4 system onto a 987, you could now control it by installing that valve control unit and then having the remotes, which you can then sync to your home link.
But you could do that on a like an AW exhaust, for example, or no?
I mean, technically, if you really wanted to, I think so, because home link is its own thing, and any remote, if it's compatible with home link, generally it's compatible with any home link system. So most of the manufacturers use the home link system for their garage door openers.
Right. One more question. So if somebody were starting to look at performance enhancements, what would be a good starting place? Would exhaust be a good place to start?
I think exhaust is sometimes the most rewarding place to start because not only do you get an actual seat of your pants change, but you also get that audible difference, right? A lot of the times it used to be you put on one of those big loud noisy exhaust systems and it would rob power from the car if it wasn't done right, but it still sounded really good. So the reward versus benefit was sometimes higher with the sound. So I think exhaust is definitely a really great place to start. Simply because, emissions are a very restrictive part of an exhaust system. So anytime that you can still, obviously, I'm going to say keep it legal, so it has to have a working catalytic converter, things like that, if you're going to run it on the street. But there are aftermarket solutions that are much more efficient and higher flow than restrictive factory ones. So yes, I think that's a really great place to start.
And what about ECU tuning? So
ECU tuning, again, that's sort of a slippery slope because there's a lot of off-the-shelf systems that you can use, but then there's a lot of custom systems that you can use. And most of the time, between Cobb or Softronic or even just a custom dyno tube, a lot of those systems, you'll see if their published numbers all are very similar because you still want to stay within a very safe realm. Obviously, a manufacturer like Porsche will put a lot of restrictions in place. I was once, I think, told a stat of, they build an engine and the performance of the engine, and then they dial it back by about 40 to 60% for longevity, for warranty purposes, or things like that. So obviously, anytime that you can change the parameters with an ECU tune, you're going to get more out of it. And, I know the big question is always, well, what does that do to my warranty? There are so many good, reputable tuners out there, Softronic and Cobb as well. That know exactly what the safe parameters are. In all the years that I've worked, even at the dealer level, I don't think I ever saw a failure that was caused specifically by a tune. Sometimes it was by doing too much or doing the wrong, mixing the wrong quality of parts that would do it more often than just a tune. Now, having said that, though, there are places or tunes out there that are not good and that I would probably stay away from, like do cause check engine lights or running issues or things like that. But again, if you stay with reputable companies and one of the things that we're trying to do on all of our projects is to do a baseline dyno and then do an after dyno. So you can really see what the differences are and the gains, but it also allows us to see what it's doing, because we can check air fuel ratios. We can check to see, exhaust temp if we want to. We can check to see all of those safety factors to make sure that the tune is doing what it's actually supposed to be doing, which is giving you more power and not being unsafe.
Good, thanks. That's all the questions for now.
Yeah,
Okay.
so just to add to that is, we talked about it in February, is some of the best ways of getting performance out of a vehicle is the more air, the more volume of air in and the more volume out. So typically on a 991 naturally aspirated car, it's BMC filters, IPD plenum, sort of, there's before getting into internals, there's really a few quick things that can be done, and then combined with again a reputable tune. So if you're doing a project at home, again on the spirit of that is, we're more than happy to give you a baseline tune. Here's what your car is doing. It also serves as a health check, as we talked about with some of the the air-cooled cars. They're 30 years old. The cats can be plugged up. The dyno will tell the true story of what's going on. And as Dirk said, specifically with AFRs, turbo, forced induction engines, like I have a turbo 944, AFRs are so important in there because it's catastrophic failure, but it's just as important when you're tracking a vehicle. And if you start to change the dynamics of the factory tune, that's when AFRs can be off. So, those are some of the things, and we're happy to guide and source and supply, even if you're working on that at home. So we'll walk over through.
At the risk of putting you on the spot with a totally hypothetical situation, what would you say would happen with a 718 GTS Turbo 2.4 on a Cobb tune?
Oh, it's big. Like, you can extract a lot of power. I don't want to quote numbers. So 718 GTS Turbo with a tune, like they're pretty good numbers. I mean.
Yeah, and I mean any of those systems too. The tune alone will take you so far, but then obviously if you put the rest of the pieces of the puzzle together, it's cumulative. But I mean, I've seen some of the when you've done the whole package with the downpipes or all of those things. I wouldn't be surprised if you're looking at anywhere between 50 to almost 75, 80 horsepower gains if all the pieces of the puzzle are right. The other one is the 991 GTSs with the turbo. Honestly, some of we built one a while back, and it was Soul Cats, X Pipe, Cobb tune, filters, IPD plenum, and this thing was a rocket. It was absolutely incredibly fast, and to the point where I was actually probably one of my favorite cars that I've driven, even with launch control on. It was absolutely earth-shattering. So
and probably in the 600s, maybe, or
I mean, it was at least 100 horsepower. We didn't dyno it, but it was the gains were massive. Yeah.
Very cool. Thanks.
Yeah, we'll walk over to 968 and just continue on some of the home stuff and modifications. So this is a 968 racer. This is the one that we had shown. We had completed a repaint on it. We're about to do the graphics. And basically, so some of the things I was talking about. So this car has MCS on it, single adjustables, Tarrant sways. It's a little dark. I apologize. So MO30, which is sort of the stock 968 bar, works really well on a 944. But if you want absolute adjustability and ability to corner balance, Tarrant's phenomenal. And so this car, the 968, comes with dampers on all four corners, which is fantastic. But that's more than doable on doing a torsion delete on a 944 and going to a Tarrant sway front and back. And again, we can supply that. There's a lot of the spherical bearings that can be changed out from rubber to solid blocks. I wouldn't recommend that for the street. It does become a little harsh, but for track duty, and as we see people looking at their high-end cars and saying, you know what, I'd like a vehicle that I can track, that's a lot of fun, that I can learn in. 944s and 968s are phenomenal for that, because it really teaches you to extract the absolute most out of a momentum vehicle. So again, really good example of sort of what we've been talking about setup wise. This car has the Racer's Edge lower control arms as well. These are the welded version. There's the new versions, all are billet aluminum. So this is a welded design. What it does as well is it changes the geometry so that as you're giving the extreme cambers required for a race car and slicks, it changes the geometry, so you're putting less pressure on the on all the components around, but also the steering angle. It's a much more friendly steering ability, and it will keep your friction circle down through the turn. So it gives you, the ultimate in handling and stuff. So so really cool setup. So I'll talk to you about if you are doing sort of a track check at home, you want to make sure your car is track ready before, regardless, you're going to still have to get a sign off. But if you want to do the work and find things on your own, there's always things like, checking for wheel bearing play, which is a fairly easy adjustment. And we're going to check it as well. Tighten it down. My anecdotal story at the beginning, and it's not funny, but it actually is a little funny, is that we were supporting some racers at Watkins Glen. It wasn't us at Mantis. I was before Mantis, and he just wanted to do everything himself. And I came around turn 1, which is a very fun turn, and I saw this gorgeous 968 in the wall, and I'm like, oh, that is so sad. And when we got the car in and all of us are harding around like we always do, what happened, doing the diagnosis, and I'm looking and I'm going, I don't even want to tell him this, but the 10 mil wrench was still on the bleeder. So it's really handy that if you're doing stuff at home to have it checked as well. So that's, a really terrible story. Funny now, I guess. The car is fixed and they're back racing, and it was a really valuable lesson that in the heat of the moment when we're working on our cars, that things can happen. So, yeah.
Hey, Don, while we're talking about brakes, is there any downside to running race brake fluid on a daily driver and just keeping it in there?
No, not at all. If anything, I mean, it's a cost downside, but typical race brake fluid, we offer a Miller's product. We also offer SRF and ATF. Race brake fluid just really has a higher wet and dry boiling point. It's almost funny in the sense, and I don't want to knock a specific product, but really if you have this super high wet boiling point, the fact is that on a race car, you're bleeding between sessions, so you never really get to that level. On a street car, I would say it's advantageous because you're doing an annual bleed or you're doing a full annual change. So there's no downside. It's
I think cost is the biggest downside because it's generally more expensive, and also the maintenance interval is quicker. Generally, for OEM fluids, it's recommended every 2 years. The hygroscopic nature of race fluid is actually a little bit higher, so it will absorb moisture quicker. And generally, it's recommended that it's replaced annually, not every 2 years.
So another thing with maintaining your vehicle, your track vehicle, or your vehicle at home is keeping good logs and records. One of the things as a dealer alternative, we see vehicles sometimes once every few years. We had a vehicle in we haven't seen in 3 years. The owner wasn't driving it much. If you're keeping good records and know when you may have bled the brakes, done the cabin filter, things like that, it just helps with really good communication with our techs and our service advisors to know what's been done to best advise. So I always recommend that you keep good records, what's been changed, what's been modified. One of the things that we are implementing with race cars first, and then with the permission of owners, we'll be doing it on a much larger scale, is a QR code, and it's affixed to the side of the car. And for those who are traveling to different club races or different tracks, it gives the ability of your mechanic, if you use a different team to support you, or you're supporting yourself. I don't remember what springs are in the car. Even if you're just joking around in the evening with your buddies and you're comparing spring rates and stuff, you're able to scan that QR code and get a full history on the vehicle of what the build is. Tarot sways, turbo brakes, Pagid yellows, what are the sway bar settings? What are the shock settings? There's so many things that we can do to our cars, and it's really hard to remember. The alternate, as I was saying, is if you're traveling, as an example, we have a lot of snowbirds that used to head down to Florida, and they would enjoy Sebring and Daytona and all the tracks down there with their vacation properties. And so if they run into any issues, yes, they can call us, but when do issues typically happen? On a Saturday at 2 p.m. when things have closed up. So that QR scanning ability, and it works on all vehicles, 944 all the way up to a GT2 RS. It just gives you that window into what's been done. Other sites and other facilities can keep updating it. So again, that's sort of logbook 2.0 and a great way to keep us informed. So
it even has the ability, actually, you can upload your checklists, you can upload track text forms like that. So the nice part is, as soon as you scan the QR code, it brings you to the page, and you can add information to it. You can even take a picture, send it to somebody. Say you're at Sebring, and you have an issue with a caliper or something like that, but you've done a brake conversion and you don't know which caliper it has in the right rear. You can go in, you can actually take a picture of it and send it to your, to Mantis or to whoever your shop is back in Toronto, and let them know that you're having an issue, and they can actually see that.
So I totally want this. How do we get it?
Get serviced here.
Come see us.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll set a baseline, and it's really, it's kind of an ongoing thing, because you just keep adding to it as you learn something. As an example, on the air cooleds, has an electric aircon system, and then we can put in the settings, the fan speed settings, even electrical routing, passwords, stuff like that. So it's really handy. So 10%. Great. Yeah, we're good. Sorry, battery is dying, but we'll be good for the rest of the session. So other things we were going to talk about was GT4s. We covered off most of what we wanted to, but if you have a brand new out of the box GT4, there's a lot of customizations. We have 3 of them on their way that will be coming in before they even get street kilometers. There's some mild setup changes that we can do. Dirk's a master at that, to give it still a very streetable feel, but a little bit more response and turn in at the track. Very powerful cars, very powerful suspension systems. And if you really want to turn it into a purpose track car, we just completed some Cantrell half cages. So those are things we're very well versed in. We're doing some BBI ones as well. So again, all the very reputable brands that we work with. And what else? Toe straps, Club Sport toe straps. We're a PMNA dealer, so if you have an appetite for a gooseneck downforce wing, I mean, there are infinite possibilities with the new cars, including going to an MCS setup, which we've seen. There's a lot of good videos on YouTube from Soul and MCS taking the new GT4s and GT3s and sprucing them up even more, which is hard to believe. But again, in the spirit of that, Porsche always leaves a little bit on the table for you. So yeah. And again, also, going back to the whole checklist, how important checklists are, and track inspections and things like that. One of the things we definitely encourage is, as things are delayed because of our current situation and things like that, doesn't mean like we're still open. We're still, considered essential service.
Essential service. Thank you. It's getting late. I'm tired. But don't put off those track tech inspections, things like that, because May is going to be upon us quickly. And I'll tell you, there's going to be a flurry of activity as soon as, the green light is given. So don't get caught out at the last minute. We are having massive supply issues, everything from tires to metal components, things like that in the industry. It's global. So make sure that if you are planning on attending an event this summer, to get a leg up and make sure you get your car checked out earlier rather than later. Gives you lots of lead time. The worst that happens is you're ready for the next one at the drop of a hat.
One of the pandemic side effects has been the Porsche brand is alive and well, and it's evident in P-Car Market, in Bring a Trailer. We have seen and PPI'd so many vehicles. So there's more and more owners coming online as well, which is super exciting for us as enthusiasts. But consequently, we're in a bit of a supply shortage, as well as new owners, and a lot of them are getting cars and wanting to do things like electromotive or modernized fuel injection systems, and they're air cooled. So yeah, it's never too early to start doing some planning, and that way there, when we do get your car in, we'll be ready to go. We'll have all the parts on the shelf. That's the investment that Dirk and I have made. This winter, it was a massive investment, but that way there, when we start on your vehicle, we have everything ready to go, laid out, nothing missing. We can get it in and out as quickly as possible. So that's a great piece of advice. May DE, as was possibly mentioned, is postponed. I'd love to think it's postponed, probably canceled. But again, there's a lot of cars out there. Dealerships are busy as well. So yeah, give us a call and we can book you in. So we're going to move over. I'm going to talk about data systems, and then I'm going to hand it off to Dirk to talk about a new member of our family, and we'll go this way. So we're not talking about our green beauty here, but that will be one of the unveilings that we do shortly. The impressive engine in that thing is going to be wild, and its sister car. So again, some of the projects that we've seen race car and DE car drivers do over the winter is data systems. There's a variety of different data systems. I'm a firm believer that as you develop your suspension in your vehicle, some of the most important things to develop, and we forget, is ourselves. That was one of the things I did, is I built a really impressive car, and I left it that now it is up to me to learn how to drive and eke out every little bit of potential. And I did that through data systems and actually working with competitors, you know, comparing notes in the evenings. It was really friendly and the camaraderie was great, especially at Mosport, turns like 5, how to get through there. I know for a DE, this is not something that you'll be using, but for club racing, it's definitely a fantastic tool. And we're seeing more and more use. These are 2 examples of systems. The MXL2 is a robust system. It's a LCD display. On CAN bus vehicles, so anything that is more modern and using a modern system, so not a 944, not an air-cooled. When would CAN bus be? Probably 2006 up. CAN bus is a great language technology that can feed all of the info to the dash, which can be cataloged and reviewed later. So it's another great way to get help from a race car, is to know, or a heavily prepped street car, is to know, okay, wow, I'm getting a little throttle blip, the TPS must be broken. So really fun, and with CAN bus makes the installation relatively simple. So on a 944 or an air-cooled racer, it's a little bit more work. You're using analog sensors, but again, it's very doable as a home project with patience and time, and we can support with wiring looms and stuff. Then you go up to sort of the next step up, which is an MXS. We'll be doing this in one of our race cars. What's nice about this setup is the concern a lot of people have is I don't have the bandwidth right now while I'm learning and developing my driving to worry about oil temps and pressures and stuff like that. So how we program these is we color code everything. So at the bottom, you have 6 different digital numeric indicators, but the way I program them up is that basically, blue is cold, green is good, amber, you better think about it, red, pull over. So it's just really easy to glance down on the back straight, or your preferred area of kind of recollecting yourself. So really cool system. I'm going to hand it off to Dirk. We have a cup car here, and they're incredible. There's a lot of cup cars out there that are available, and they're not as expensive. So as you would think, and Dirk can talk about, using a cup car for DE and enjoying yourself with it. So
yeah, I mean, for a lot of I think a lot of clients, they've been in the motorsports for a while. They've gone through. They've maybe built a Cayman, or they built a Boxster. They've built an early 911. They're looking for that next level, that next step, whatever. And right now, sort of fortunately and unfortunately, there's not a lot of motorsports in Canada right now. So there are quite a few cup cars available on the market. One of the things that's a little bit intimidating about this car is obviously it is a 100% purpose-built, full-out race car. Doesn't mean that it can't be piloted, just by a privateer or by a client car or as a client car. So, some of the things that we're able to do is we're able to obviously support the maintenance on the vehicle. All the maintenance is, based by time on these vehicles. So as long, again, falling into that whole, having that check sheet, having that, going through the process and making sure you keep a logbook, all of those things, not only on a cup car, but even on a regular DE car, those also add value when it comes time to upgrade or sell that car, move on or something like that. When you can show somebody the history and the value of, what's been done to it, it speaks volumes. So, one of the things about a cup car is making sure that that car is, gone over before each event. But then, to be honest, if you have the desire or drive to, get a nitrogen bottle with a regulator and a wand and all those things, you actually can do some of this stuff at the track yourself. It's probably a really good idea to start slow and learn the car, just like every other car, on the track going out, getting used to the vehicle before starting to push it, obviously. But, it is a body in white 911. It's just got a lot of purpose built from the factory race bits on it. So again, I'm not sure how we're doing for time. Are we still okay? Yeah, we're still good. Okay. But yeah, one of the exciting things about this car is, we can help support it if you need to at the track. Obviously, it can be a very intimidating vehicle, but it also can be a lot of fun. So, we have several clients that have cup cars that use them as DE cars, or do very light, even some. I think some are planning on doing some PCA events or some other light
time attack things like that.
Yeah. So we can obviously, we have the ability to support the vehicle and make sure that everything on the car is as it should be, and also help set up a logbook or even a check sheet for you. So if you are interested in keeping a better record of your vehicle and stuff like that, but you don't really know where to start, we can always supply templates for that as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of great information on the timeouts, on bearings and things like that. As a 991 car, it's the modern platform. 997s, if you can find one, it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of the technology, replacement parts for them, the dashes. So what's great about this is if you are serious about, hyper serious about growing your driving, and if you're looking at building a race car, then a cup car is should be in the consideration. And the reason is because from the factory, you have Porsche engineering behind all the safety. It comes turnkey with data systems, with cage, with everything. So sometimes the best race car is one that someone else built because of the fact of the costs involved to perfect and develop it. So that's why, as the 997 sort of stabilize in value, I know there's a few of them out there, and the 991s even are stabilizing. We can do a PPI for you, look at hours, look at the technology, what's been done, where it was raced, and tell you the whole story on value and stuff. So that's the exciting thing we wanted to touch base on, and then kind of to end it off was, the polar opposite to this structure is you're looking for a family project in these sort of times of idle hands, and a 944 SP1 is a great place to start, either as a father son, mother daughter project to build a race car, an entry level DE/race car that family member can learn on, and you can grow and build together. And we're more than happy to help. That's where Mantis was, founded on, was on the 944 platform, 914 platform. Obviously, we've evolved with Caymans and everything, but the 944 platform is a really valid platform because of its cost, because of availability, and the fact that there's 30 years of engineering technology out there to modernize the platform. So a lot of the stuff can be done at home. So we're getting asked more and more. So I wanted to mention that you've got 10 years from now, this could be something to aspire to. But if you're just looking to get into it, find a 944, and we can certainly help. We had a client come in today, a younger gentleman, and and was working on just getting his track ready and street ready. So we were able to provide engine mounts, balance shaft pulleys, and different parts like that. So we have a massive cache of parts for Caymans and pretty much everything. So we're here to help. That's the big thing. And as enthusiasts, we both Dirk and I get super excited about other people's projects. And I guess I'm super guilty. I always want to buy. I want to build one too. So I'm in it with you, and that's the exciting thing. So that kind of, I think, covers off what we wanted to do today, and just show that, regardless of your vehicle type, you can work efficiently at home, and we can support you, or we can do a turnkey project, and there's a lot of exciting projects that we can do in these times. So.
Thanks, guys. I've now set the muting that you can unmute yourselves. So feel free to jump in, unmute yourself, and ask the guys any questions you got.
Well, I'll go first, but just to say thank you. John and Dirk, you're kind of living the dream there, and I think a lot of people have a really great time watching these sessions. I'm happy to hear that you're thinking of doing another one, because let me tell you, this is absolutely great, and I'm sure a lot of us just love seeing all the projects and what's going on, and also revitalizing Mantis, and what a great, fabulous resource that is for the club and for the Porsche owners in the district. So it's really super. I want to thank you for doing it.
Thank you, Roger. Yeah, we have some motivation because we watch the Canapa factory tour every week, and well, I'll tell you, we got a long way to go, but it's exciting. So.
We had a comment from Peter Lockhart, who's a race car driver and the vice chairman of the Canadian Motorsport Hall of Fame. Just wants to congratulate you guys on the opening and saying how it's great for all of us.
Thank you, Peter.
Awesome. Yeah. Yes, thank you.
And John, I'll ping you about 968. I know we've talked before about 968 and even the 944. But it's interesting, the idea of having like a standard build for improving the cars. And so I'll ping you about that.
Excellent.
I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, it's for Dirk. Regarding the roof build, we're talking about the Softronic tunes. What exactly does that tune do for that car?
So this one, it's interesting. The Softronic tune that's on this is what they call a conversion file. So it's also, the setup we're going to go with is going to be a catless exhaust system. So not only is it a conversion file because it's a larger displacement engine, also a 996 versus Boxster engine, but then with the catless system, we can also go to a race style software system. So I mean, the goal all along for the car, was an easy 380 horsepower. So we're gonna see once all the pieces come together. I'll be honest, the exhaust system is going to be interesting. It'll be the first one that I've done with a GT3 rear muffler. But I think with the flow and everything and the headers, essentially we should be looking at something equivalent to the kind of flow and power of a 996, like a GT3 996, because of the extra displacement and everything. So it'll be really interesting to see. But I mean, our baseline is 380. I'd love to see 4, but we'll see. But I think that with the Softronic, the nice part is we'll have the ability to do a little bit of a dyno run, obviously, once the engine's broken in a little bit, and do some tweaking and see where we can maximize our gains.
Awesome, Dirk. I appreciate it.
A Boxster GT3 sounds freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So somebody has a question about car rental around your place. Is there a car rental place if they want to come by, drop off the car and?
There is actually. We have there's a couple down the street, but there is what's the one right across the street? What's that?
Osh?
No.
We have Enterprise. We have a few different ones, and
they're walking distance.
Yeah, and we can also organize if we know ahead. They'll drop the car off here. So absolutely, there's we can accommodate that.
Dirk, I have a question.
Yep.
I have a 2015 991.1 GTS, and I was wondering what you would recommend in terms of modifications to help with the performance?
So honestly, with the performance in that, I would do the sole caps and X pipe in there, and there's a bunch of different manufacturers based on whatever sound you're after for the center muffler or X pipe. The IPD plenum, and then BMC filters, and then a tune, and it could be either Softronic or Cobb. Cobb does a great plug and play. Softronic might get you a little bit extra power. But yeah, both of those are you'd be very pleasantly surprised by the outcomes.
Thank you, Dirk.
Absolutely.
Hey guys, Darren here. Quick question for you. Hey, John. I sent you a little message this morning, cobbling together that 951 engine. Just about there. It's in the shop right now, getting the deck planed on the block. Skirt coatings. Mm-hmm. Is there, that's got to go to Swain, or is there anybody local, or how required are they, or what's your thoughts on that?
So yeah, I apologize. I started to answer you, but I got distracted. But so
No
a lot
worries.
of the side coatings on the skirts, the graphite is actually a initial startup coating. As far as doing a Swain coating or something like a ceramic or a Cerakote on the tops, I would say that would really be if you were doing like a 1.5 bar 951 build or a really aggressive turbo induction. For a street application, it's nice. It's a nice to have, but it's a not anywhere near a must have. As far as finding like locally, Cerakoting the tops.
Yeah, I mean for Cerakote, we definitely have access to that. The graphite coating, I'd have to look into.
Yeah.
Most of the pistons we order are custom application for us, and they come with the graphite coating already on them. It's interesting. That question's it's a great question. Through some of the engine builds that I've done, I actually ended up taking some of them apart and noticed that even relatively new builds, the coating was already starting to come off on the aftermarket pistons. The Porsche OEM pistons are slightly different. But so I actually contacted JE Piston about it.
Oh, there goes the battery, I think.
Yeah, we lost you guys if you can hear us, but I think we may have lost that phone.
Yeah, he had a low battery for sure.
Yeah. And video casting takes a lot of battery too.
All right. What do we do
Sorry,
now?
we're back.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, if we phone died.
Yeah, we thought so.
Let me get video going.
There you are.
Okay, so
Okay, so a little different. Yeah, there you go. So anyway, yeah. So the short and the long answer was that the graphite coating from the piston manufacturers, they seem to indicate that it's mainly there during the break-in process. So that they're actually not so concerned if it starts to wear away after a while, that its main function is to just assist in the actual engine break-in. So I wouldn't worry as much about the skirt coating. And again, the ceramic coating on the top, if you wanted to go that route, is more to just protect against any massive, thermal issues in the combustion chamber, usually obviously on very high boosted vehicles where the fuel control system might not be as accurate, and you might end up with lean situations periodically, which would give you really high internal combustion temperatures.
Very good. Thank you.
Hey, Sil, did you have a question? Sil, do you have a question? You've got your hand up, so
Sylvia.
you're on mute right now too.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
There we go. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, I just wanted to say thank you. A real big thank you. About a year ago, I lost my baby. I blew the motor, and I was faced with some, real decisions to make. And after looking at some of Porsche's outrageous prices for just a bottom end, I was at a bit of a crossroads, and somehow we crossed paths, and it was a great day. I'm not very mechanically inclined, and you've guided me every step of the way. I trust you fully. I thank you for all the advice you've given me. I consider you a friend now, so much so that you now have both my cars to do, and I can't wait. I'm so excited. John as well has become a good contact, a good friend, and thank you, John. I can't wait for my custom suit, and for those of you who didn't know, he can make you a custom racing suit with
Sylvia.
your name on it and stuff. So anyway, all joking aside, I am very, very, very grateful because I think a good mechanic to people like us is as important as a good doctor. I know I'm in really good hands, and I thank you for everything you've done for me.
Well, thank you,
Thank you,
Silvio.
Silvio. And I thank you for your patience, because as you've learned, this process isn't always perfect. There are some bumps along the way, sometimes with supply and issues and things like that. Yes, thank you again. Thank you for giving us trust. I can't wait for you to see the final product, because you're going to love it.
Thank you so much. And thank you for this. This is so great. Love it.
Cool.
Bye.
Thank
Hey
you.
guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, we can.
I just want to say how great it is to see Mantis living on. I met Dirk at Porsche Center Oakville years ago, and so happy to see him unbridled with John. I think it's great that there's an option and more options. I have nothing bad to say about my friends at FAF Tuning, but you know, the more the merrier, the better for all. Great for all the participants who enjoy the brand and the opportunity to improve them. So great congratulations to you guys, and really happy to have been a part of this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for joining us. And thank you. Yes.
Thanks, Peter. Danny, you've got your hand up. Did you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. I actually just typed it, but just wondering if you guys are running the body shop. I heard you mention you painted one of the cars there. I know that Ernie used to run the body shop. Are you guys still doing much body stuff?
Mainly race car stuff. So we're not a Concours level paint facility, and so our focus is on race cars and touch-ups and that. So if it's a bumper, we work with a lot of facilities that we can outsource to, so we can handle the mechanical side of it. But yeah, I wouldn't say that we're a full-on body shop. So
I got a race car, might need something painted, and Ernie, Ernie used to operate, it was a number of years ago, but he had the little unit next door. There was a guy doing body race cars in there. Is that still the same setup?
yeah, so we have our main 5,000 square foot mechanical facility, and then we have our motorsport / paint work facility, which is again we do some special projects there and builds and that. So
Yeah, like we do have a full paint booth. We have all the equipment and everything. We've designated it more for internal and for race car application. We're not a collision center. We don't want to do those sorts of projects, but obviously we have an affiliation with Porsche certified collision center, so we can help facilitate any kind of repair. But obviously for racing things or painting roll cages or things like that, 100%.
Yeah.
Great.
Can
Thank
you
you
get your
very
hand
much.
up?
Thanks for the show.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
G, you have your hand up?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Just again, going off what Sylvia said and being very grateful towards Dirk and the team. I'm from Ottawa. I brought my car from Ottawa to Toronto. I left it there with Dirk from day one. And I'm just very grateful to have met this gentleman, and his enthusiasm, his knowledge is just ridiculous. From now on, I'll be even going from Ottawa to Toronto for servicing, just because in Ottawa, you don't have these types of mechanics that are knowledgeable, friendly, and share the same passion in racing and, types of performance ideas and whatnot. In Ottawa, we lack mechanics of any sort. So I'm grateful for Dirk and meeting him, and I'm glad to have that relationship. I'm glad the Mantis is up and running. Can't wait to see you guys in May.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, can't wait to see you back.
Thank you.
Did you guys invite all your relatives? I'm kidding. It's so great to hear these testimonials. We had a question.
It's ironic though, because honestly, John touched on this earlier. I've been in this business a really long time, obviously, and so many people, so many clients have actually transformed into friends, and the friendships are unbelievable. And it's really neat too, because a lot of these friendships span 25, almost 30 years. And it's really fun to be in this place in Mantis and have so many of these relationships reappear or come back or be reacquainted. So I'm super grateful for having all of you, join us and be a part of this, because we really are thankful.
And somebody mentioned it's like having a good doctor, because you got a relationship with the car, like a lot of us do, but also a financial. I mean, there's sometimes a lot of money that can go, one way or another. So it's really important to have guys like you. Somebody had a question about the car that you've got up for sale. What are you asking for it?
You know what? It's actually not our car, so we can make a connection to the owner and end up discussing with them. So we're not brokers or anything. It was just worthy of mentioning that it was something that we refinished. So it's a fairly fresh new setup, ready for a new happy owner. So I'm happy. Dirk and I, either one of us, are happy to make a connection. So
there you go. Any other questions?
Which one of those 944s are for sale?
Well, you know what? We have a few tubs. We could build some new ones, but we just finished building our endurance cars, and Nico is holding the computer. The Now computer has become a master polisher, and we've put a lot of time into them. So I don't think we're going to bark with any of them yet. But there's
also John, you got so many.
I know. There's quite a few out there that are available. So again, if you want to connect with either myself or Dirk, I can make a connection. Like off the top of my head, I know there's 3 or 4 of them set up to either club spec or regional spec. So I could be pried into selling my purple one, but it's kind of my baby.
Okay, I'm coming next Thursday for some service, so I'll talk to you.
Okay, sounds good.
And Darren's got one for sale in the text chat, so check in with him.
Okay,
I've got a question about Porsche Sport exhaust. So how good is Porsche Sport exhaust? How liberal is it with the air? Is it more for the sound, or is there actually good performance with it on a, let's call it a 996 C4S?
So the 911s had the sport exhaust system that they used, and actually in most of the factory systems, especially the earlier generations, the sport exhaust system was really a bypass. So a lot of the times it was valved, and it would bypass most of the internal baffling. So on the 996 variant, it actually would sort of almost take the fast route through the baffling of the muffler. So it would facilitate in and then just basically back straight out of the muffler can itself. That's where you get into the whole Gundo hack or the Fisker, mod, which replicated, but not really, because it was valved. Probably the most effective one was the GT4, the 987 or the 981 variant of GT4 system, because that was a true bypass internally. It basically took that right from the catalytic converter and then put it right into the outlet. And that's why it had that great rasp and warble. But, the cup cars, right, like the Club Sports, the Cayman Club Sport or the GT4 Club Sport, they use OEM systems. So they are very flowing systems, when they're opened up. So any of the factory valve systems definitely have less back pressure and flow really well.
So there would be potentially a horsepower change or a torque change between open and closed?
Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting because one of the things we want to start playing with, as we do our dyno polls for some of the installations we do, we want to show the difference between a closed system and an open system. So now most of the DFI system, PSE systems, not only is it valved, but actually if you look closely, it's really restrictive. The valved portion, like when it goes into quiet mode, it's actually a smaller pipe diameter, and a lot of times there's extra baffling inside as well. So it's not just a bypass, it really affects back pressure as well.
I had a valved exhaust, the Initech system on my last car, and there's a 35 horsepower difference between open and closed. We dynoed it at Mosport.
Wow, yeah. And I believe it. I completely believe it, yeah.
What exhaust would you recommend for a 1987 944 turbo?
We can build, we basically would build it in-house. Again, if it's street driven, we could set it up with a race. like a 200 cell cat or a race cat. So again, depending on the configuration, and we can do it in stainless. So I found out this week, and many may have heard this, is beloved RS Barn is closing down. They had some pretty cool stainless setups, and as a matter of fact, we used a lot of their templates as like, hey, we can do this in Canada, save the shipping and stuff. So so we would build it in-house, basically, an exhaust for a turbo.
And what about a Gen 1997?
So Gen 1997, Soul makes a really, really good system. Their 200 cell cats are there's a definite horsepower increase there. And you could run that with a stock muffler, or you could use the Soul mufflers as well. But the biggest restriction on those systems was definitely the cats. And the header. I mean, honestly, the header, you can probably get a 15 horsepower just by doing a header.
I think everything's going to be based on purpose. You know, if you plan on going to get groceries, then a race header is probably not the way to go. But so it's just, yeah, everything would be based, like to go back to the 951 question, I'm running a 4-inch, so 3-inch downpipe to 4-inch. I'm driving that tonight. It's like 440 horsepower. 4-inch all the way to the back. I mean, it's loud, but it's a hell of a lot of fun. So,
any other questions? Anybody on the line? The problem with that Initech system that I had was that it was basically a sewing machine or NASCAR.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I ended up swapping it all out and putting on fab speeds, so just sound good all the time.
Yep. Go NASCAR.
Actually, one of my favorite setups for 996, 997 is honestly the headers, the free flowing cats, like 200 cell cats, and then the stock mufflers with a bypass pipe, like with a Gundam pack or something in it. And honestly, in idle, it sounds stock, but when you get on it, it opens up and it just sounds great.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's
all right. Let Dirk go home.
Any other questions on the line? Going once, going twice. Okay, well, thanks so much, guys. Really, really, really awesome session as always. Roger, you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here, Chris.
Want to do a wrap up?
Well, just as I say, really appreciate it, John and Dirk, and it's a great shop, and we really enjoy your tour around. You've got a bit of a pause here on the track being held up, but I know you're going to get busy in the coming weeks as track sessions open up. But we'll look forward to organizing a third one of these, and the attendance is great, and I know everybody really appreciates it. So thank you.
Awesome.
Awesome. We appreciate everybody attending for sure.
Yeah. Thank you to everyone who's attending. Thank you to PCA for the great support. And we're so happy to be members and enjoy all the fun stuff we can do with other fellow enthusiasts. So really appreciate it.
Add a third one.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay.
Have a great night.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
See ya.
Thanks, everyone.